وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Stated by Margaret Mead. Good morning to all of our listeners. I am Hanan Yahya, here with you from Radio Baladi on Life Infused. Indeed, many of society's issues are solvable, and young people are the future of our society. Today's interesting topic is planting seeds of activism in youth. What does this mean? Why is it important? And why is there a need to create a more productive generation of young people? We will indulge in this topic today with conversations with our program guests, Detroit Minds and Hearts, and we will also evaluate the societal backbone to this topic. Life Infused is a blog space where young people, myself included, can indulge in conversations directly related to their identity, struggles and experiences in all social, educational, and professional areas of their life. There aren't many platforms like this radio show that allow this medium of expression, but this is an extraordinary opportunity to challenge that absence and take this radio show and blog to the next level. Through various works of expression, I hope to raise awareness, support popular education, challenge ideas, and influence activism. I encourage you all to tune into the show on Fridays from 8 to 9 a.m. on Radio Baladi and support our movement. For our topic today, planting seeds of activism in youth, this is something that we oftentimes throw under the rug. We don't really talk about, young people. We just say, they can do their own thing. They're young, they're naive, they're immature most of the time. It's not important that they get involved. It's not important that they focus on things that are bigger than themselves. But today's conversation challenges that idea and proposes the complete opposite, actually. It is such a rewarding experience when young people are trained on how to be at the forefront of combating issues in their community and society as a whole. The program guest, Detroit Minds and Hearts, is a great example of an initiative that fulfills the goal of empowering young people to indulge in their passions and become young activists in their communities. Detroit Minds and Hearts is a youth empowerment initiative to recognize, refine, and retain the potential of young Muslim youth for social justice. They began DMH in 2011 because there was a lack of transformative youth development programs in our community. DMH aims to reactivate youth activism by recognizing the positive potential of youth agents of social change in their communities, refining their skills in order to increase the efficacy of their community work, retaining youth by instilling within them a self-sustaining drive for social justice. The program is unique because the fellows learn critical thinking skills to be able to take the lessons that they learned from cross-cultural leaders to the streets. Provided with both the skills and the resources, fellows identify problems in their local communities and launch action plans to address them. In a few minutes, we will have two representatives from DMH come on the show and talk to us about their program and how it began and why it's very important. Amira Saidi and Isra Kilawi will both be on the show in a few minutes after our break. So please stay tuned, and we will get back to you in a few minutes.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziad.com. That's www.ziad.com. Ziad, quality products from our family to yours.
If you get into a car accident, how will you pick up the pieces when you can't work, when the bills pile up? Who will help you? Call 866-YOUR-RIGHTS.
I called Jumana. She took care of everything. My medical bills, lost wages, and even a large settlement.
I am Jumana Kiruz, and I assure you that my team will not stop until you get the most for your rights.
If you've been in a car accident, call Jumana. 866-YOUR-RIGHTS.
Dr. Al-Zuhaili specializes in diabetes and endocrinology and has been conducting research for over 12 years. Right now, there are several clinical studies actively enrolling for both adult and pediatric patients with type 2 diabetes. Under Dr. Al-Zuhaili's care, participants in the clinical research trials receive free lab work, medical procedures, medical supplies, and medications to assist in their treatment. Qualified participants are also compensated for their time and travel in addition to receiving top care for their diabetes treatment and control. The research department is equipped with experienced and friendly staff who will work to manage patient care and schedule accommodations. Please contact Al-Zuhaili Medical Consultants at 1331 Monroe Street in Dearborn. Visit alzuhailidiabetes.com and call 313-581-8903. 313-581-8903.
New Concept Product and Design، رائدة إعداد وتجهيز المطاعم والمطابخ بالمعدات بشكل كامل، غرف التبريد والثلاجات. يمكننا مساعدتكم في الحصول على التمويل اللازم لمشروعكم، وكذا الحصول على الإجازات اللازمة من الدوائر الصحية. نخدمكم بخبرة 25 عاما. ناجي عبود صديقكم الدائم. للاتصال الهاتف رقم 248-442-9292 248-442-9292 وتماما على 33900 West 8 Mile Farmington Hills. للمزيد من التفاصيل زيارة الموقع الإلكتروني www.nuconceptproducts.com.
Welcome back to Life Infused on Radio Baladi. Our topic for today is planting seeds of activism in youth. Our program guest is Detroit Minds and Hearts. And we will learn a bit about what this program is before we have our fabulous guests, Amira Saidi and Isra Kilawi, on the show. Detroit Minds and Hearts is a youth empowerment initiative dedicated to recognizing, refining, and retaining the potential of Muslim youth for social justice. The program is unique because fellows learn critical thinking skills to be able to take the lessons learned from cross-cultural leaders to the streets. Provided with both the skills and resources, fellows identify problems in their local communities and launch action plans and initiatives to address them. Amira, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Amira. Welcome to the show. Isra, are you?
Yep.
Welcome, both of you. Okay, great. So maybe we can start off by talking a little bit more about what this program is. And I just gave a really brief kind of background. But if you can just tell us a little bit about the general purpose of Detroit Minds and Hearts and its history.
Sure. So I'll start off. I'm the program coordinator of the Detroit Minds and Hearts program. And the way we designed it is initially as I think it was like a 20-week initiative for youth to come around, and we use the word fellowship intentionally. We want them to build bonds with one another and with adults in the community that they feel that they can trust and they could open up to. And within the programming, our ideal skill set that we want to build in with them is a sense of critical consciousness and awareness of what's right and what's wrong, and then give them the skills to be able to do what's right when they see a wrong, regardless of consequences. And we've seen it happen with a number of our graduated fellows who are now, they've graduated to become youth allies. So they now facilitate the program for other youth coming into the program.
Excellent. So when was it initiated, and who came up with the idea and why, essentially?
Isra, you want to take this one?
So we began in April 2010, and Amita and a few other ladies under Muslim American Society noticed that there was a lack of transformative youth programming. So we did have a lot of lectures, a lot of one-time events. Mm-hmm. There wasn't anything that helped youth develop long-term. And so that was the initial idea that, we wanted to develop something that carried over, that tracked the development of youth, that had metrics. So that started April 2010, and now here we are.
Okay, so 4 years ago, a vision was seen, and then you guys started this amazing program. That's great. So it says that it's focused in the Muslim community, and this is because it branched out of, you said, the Muslim American Society. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you guys maybe connect, religion and spirituality within the program?
Sure. So within the program, we had a segment of every week session that was labeled icon exposure. So we would give them some sort of role model, historical, present day, religious, secular, who exemplified for us ideal characteristics that we would want in ourselves, and that also some of them even demonstrated. So 1 week, one icon exposure was Malcolm X, and we talked about his life, his shortcomings, his strengths. Another week we talked about Umar bin al-Khattab, who we think is one of the most misunderstood Sahaba. He's a really dynamic figure in Islam. And so we talked about how he came to the religion. We talk about how he was seen as such an enemy, but God turned his heart. And we do things around these icons. We allow them to do there was one exercise called a collage where they rip out images from magazines that represent these icons as they know them, and then we teach them a little bit about the icons, and then they come back and refigure their collages. And these are just one way that we sort of incorporated Islamic figures within the programming. There were other ways, like bringing in speakers, having them meet people within the community doing social justice work who happen to be Muslim and non-Muslim. And if it has anything else to add to that?
And then essentially, Islam is, your faith is inside you, but it's also supposed to help you manifest as an active member of society. You're contributing something good to the people around you. Mm-hmm. And that directly aligns with the mission of social justice movement. So that's kind of how we tie it together.
Excellent. So this is Detroit Minds and Hearts. So I'm guessing that this is based out of Detroit, but it involves those from Dearborn and who are interested in, for the most part, or is there just a few designated areas that you guys are focusing on?
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah. So you're asking if we're based in Detroit, but if we recruit out of Detroit.
Basically.
Yeah, so we are. It was an intentional choice to actually be based in Detroit. Mm-hmm. We felt it was really central to the communities that we served. That does include Hamtramck, Detroit, Dearborn. Where was the group from last year, Isra? Farmfield Hills. Where? Farmington Hills. Mm-hmm. We recruit from all over. The fellows just have to apply. Youth from any place apply. We even had one application from Turkey. Wow. We weren't able to accept her. And then we accept people based on their. Initially, we used to accept people just based on their sense of, their desire to want to change something in their community. And now we actually want them to have an idea of the type of initiative that they want to build before they even come to us. We found that was the thing that fellows struggled for. I know one of our cohort groups, it took them 3 years to actually launch their initiative from when they started with us. Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for young people who already have an idea in mind and have a kind of a rough draft, and then they enter DMH with kind of already some background in what they're doing, right? Rather than coming in and kind of going through all of that.
Yeah, and we stress the idea of a rough draft. It doesn't have to be fleshed out in any way, in any deep form. We know that that's the difficult part, and that's what we help them with.
Right. So I'm kind of guessing the age group is like high school. Are there like underclassmen in college that you guys accept, or does it matter?
Youngest, go ahead.
So we usually do like 13 to 18, but we also do like early college.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, usually high school, early college.
That's great. So you guys talked a little bit about how you recruit from Hamtramck and Detroit and from Farmington as well. I think that's an amazing mix. And the fact that it's based in Detroit and not in one of those cities is also sends off a good vibe that it kind of provides unity for the program, I think, from my point of view. And I think that's great because you're bringing kids from these communities that are completely different from one another, and then them learning from each other is the best part, I think, about it. That's great. So
thank you.
Yeah. So they come into this program. They have kind of a rough draft idea in mind. But before you guys were teaching them skills and training them on how to become activists. So how does that go?
Can you say the question again? Like,
sure.
How do we train?
Yeah. So like, what are your focuses? Because in the mission it says to refine, to retain, and to recognize, refine, and retain. And so is the program set out to be like that, where it flows out when the first part is recognizing the potential and then refining their skills and then retaining? Is that how it goes through the program? Because you said it was a 20-week program, am I correct?
Yeah. So help me start this out.
So we focus on two sets of skills, hard skills and soft skills, and it's a total of 16 skills.
Mm-hmm.
But we feel like all of them are essential to their work as activists. So a lot of these skills go under ethical independence, healthy sense of interdependence, movement building, effective communication. So things like critical thinking, building confidence, purpose, building networking skills, research so that their ideas are founded in statistics and they're not just saying things off the top of their head, leadership, argumentation, negotiation. So our workshops are built on these skills, and that's kind of what we move off of.
Excellent. That's great.
And I would like to stress that, I'm an adult 32-year-old woman in this program, the first adult ally with Khadija Al-Asri, and Isra was a high school student when she started with us 4 years ago now. And they've taken on the program, the youth, her and Amani Kilawi, her sister, and 2 youth allies, Sana Al-Asri and Bintu. So the fact that she even knew those and prepared those skill sets, and I don't even remember them, is just a testament to, the transference of leadership in this program. So good job, Isra.
Well, let me say something, actually. Part of this program, a huge part of it was documentation, and that's a skill on its own. And so that was something that Amita really insisted we do. And so I was able, based on what we learned, to just pull up the skill set from our Google Drive, and it was there. So.
That's great. I'm kind of in love with Google Drive, so way to go. I love that.
So are we.
So it says here on your Launch Good campaign that you all have facilitated over 12 community workshops. So was that for the community? Was that for the general public? What were they about?
The workshops kind of happened all over the nation pretty much. So we had some locally and some in different states in different MASS chapters. So members of MASS, which is a national organization, kind of reached out to get a sense of what kind of youth programming we were doing, because it's pretty new stuff. And so we would go there and kind of present to them our philosophy, our basically what we do.
That's great. I mean, so now you're connecting with, you're creating a network for this program, and it's going far. That's awesome. So while I was reading the Launch Good campaign, it seems like, I don't know, this is like this project is like a foundation for something very large. That's something that I see myself, and I'm just a stranger to it. Something that will like inevitably grow and expand and like bring so many more youth and train them and just create this ripple effect. Was that the original goal when you all created it? And how far have you guys gone, and where do you want to go? I know these are like 3 questions, but am I looking at it correctly?
Are you sorry?
Yeah. Go ahead, Isha.
No, I was just asking Shannon what was the last thing she asked was.
Was this like what I'm seeing, you know, what I just said, like, was it a part of the plan originally? And, you know, how far have you guys come, and where do you plan to take this, is my question.
Go ahead, Amina.
So it was definitely part of the vision. When Khadija and I started, we were full-time teachers. Khadija still is, and I'm going back to the classroom next year. So our jobs were pretty demanding, and we knew that this program couldn't be on the shoulders of 1 or even 4 people. It needed to be distributed. So we always treated the fellows coming in as the next generation of leaders, not just for like future things, but also currently for our own programming. So, you know, the first talks of the transference to the youth fellows was that very first year in the cohort. We're like, we want you to train the next cohort of fellows that come in. And they started doing that. We trained them in the leadership skill set of like documentation and evaluation, outreach. So any of the adult allies always had a youth who was sort of like apprenticing under them. And what we've seen is now these fellows who have particularly been in the program since day one, they've started impacting even their fellow students in their own schools. So they started, like, the one initiative was launched called Thinking About the Next Generation, and they now take DMH programming and essentially do it for the middle school and high school students in their school. So that's just one example of, like, the ripple effect.
That's great. So is the program planning on kind of expanding anytime soon? I know you guys were raising money to kind of launch the next cohort. Is there kind of like a broader goal to make this like a metropolitan Detroit thing and to gather more youth? And maybe I'm thinking about something that's far-fetched, but I see it as something possible.
I mean, I think that the nature of the program is that, like Amita said, it's not built on specific individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I think as we graduate more and more fellows, that might be one of their initiatives, that they want to start a DMH chapter in their specific community. So, I mean, it kind of depends on what the youth choose to make of it. Our capacity is limited, so I'm not sure that we could possibly, kind of start another DMH, but I think the way the program is made is that we graduate different people every year who have their own ideas and the skills to launch their own ideas. And so that could be in the future, inshallah.
I think that's more beautiful than expanding it and making it just one huge program. Now that you mention it, I'm thinking about it, and I think that's the most important part, is that you're teaching these young people how to do it on their own and to create programs of their choice in their communities, and then it just continues and they train other people, and that's so productive and that's so efficient and it's good. I think it's way better than this whole big thing, because we oftentimes, I think normally with organizations, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have like this top down kind of dynamic, and once it enlarges and it gets bigger and stuff, it increases the gap between the young people and the people at the top, and then it kind of, the vision is lost in between. I've seen it happen with many, but I like your idea better, and I think it's way more efficient and productive for the young people.
And I just want to draw attention to the slogan that framed the programming when we designed it in 2010. The ayah from the Quran is, God will not change the condition of people until they change what is in their hearts.
Yeah.
So for us, we believe that the ripple actually starts within ourselves. So a lot of the programming is intensely focused on, like, what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you find unfair in the world? And, you know, what are you going to be doing about it? Because, like, there's also the other quote that we use that for injustice to live or something, good, all is needed for evil to exist is for good men to do nothing. So it's just the idea that we are not bystanders. We're always either doing good or not doing good. And really advocating for that. And the only way that's going to happen is not to take someone's model and plug it into every community. Mm-hmm. It's to take your own idea of, you know, what you believe your community that you deeply understand needs and go out and do it. Don't wait for somebody else to come out and do it or design something for you.
That's great. Within the cohorts that you guys have led in the past years, have you guys found any like kind of disparities between the young people who come from Hamtramck versus Dearborn, let's say, for example, in their journeys in making their kind of goals happen or anything like that? Like, for example, a young person from Hamtramck doesn't have as much access to resources as one young person would have in Dearborn, for example. Have you guys seen that happen, and how have you guys been able to battle that? Because it's not, you know, something that is anybody's kind of fault, but it's a kind of institutional fault, I guess.
So actually, the youth who came from the Detroit-Hamtramck area, I mean, from our limited experience, most of them came with a much stronger passion than those who, let's say, came from more well-off area. So, like, I feel like their lack of resources, the lack of programming they have, especially Samically, kind of drove them to really take advantage of this opportunity and really engage in DMH and make whatever they could out of it. Anita, you want to add anything?
I totally agree, and a lot of the research that we have around critical pedagogy by like Paulo Freire or Duncan Andrade speaks to the same idea that those that are oppressed know oppression best, so they know how to solve it, versus those who have grown up in privilege. Not to say that there's nothing that they can't offer, it's just a very different type of, sense of responsibility to to eliminating oppression. You are invested because you are a victim of oppression, or you're experiencing it rather than being a victim. That's all.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, at least from my personal experience, having been raised in Detroit and then kind of moving to Ann Arbor and then coming back and forth, just my experiences growing up have stayed with me. So every time I attempt to do something, there's just always this fire in me because of just all of my experiences in Detroit and within the Muslim community and stuff like that. So I can see that definitely happening with the young people as well. Absolutely. So right now, maybe we can talk about, as a program as a whole, have you guys faced any challenges along the way during these 4 years? Maybe within the community, was it harder to kind of start this up? Was it accepted at first? How did that go?
I can speak on a personal level. I think the biggest challenge for me was designing the program. This idea of like crafting a 3-hour block of time to get someone to think about a specific topic in several different ways, all out trying to keep it stimulating for a young person and doing it creatively, that was completely new, and it was a difficult challenge for me. But it's also rewarding because in designing the program, I witnessed what it's like to craft a workshop that kind of changes the way a person thinks about a given topic, and that's very powerful. Another challenge I think we had is initially when we first started, it was this idea of having a continuous program was new. So people wanted us to kind of just come and do like one workshop in their community. And it was like we kind of had to keep stressing it, we wanted to do something continuous, something that, has metrics, track the development of views, like it's a continuous program versus, the one-time events where everybody gets motivated and then, nothing happens and there's no follow-up. Anita.
What is this, Amani, call those? Flash mob volunteers? Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. Funding was also an issue just personally, because we do these fundraisers where we raise like the money that we potentially need for 1 to 2 years, but we know that we've been leaning pretty heavily on Mass, particularly Mass Detroit, for funds that they had accrued for us, and we don't want to have to do that. We want this, we really ideally want sustainers, so we don't have to spend as much time wondering, are we going to have money for programming this year? Are we going to be able, do we have enough people to be able to do this? And it only took a month for us to raise like that $6,500, but that was day in, day out, making phone calls,
right.
Talking to people individually, badgering my family. So it's just like if we didn't have to invest time in that, we could be just totally invested in developing the programming.
Right. I think money is a huge issue with organizations in general, specifically nonprofits and these kind of startups. And fundraising, I completely agree. It's definitely a difficult process. Have you guys considered contacting these bigger kind of foundations and stuff that provide money for young people, or was that not an option? Because oftentimes when people at the top, or corporations or foundations or any of those people kind of give you money, they demand conditions. And have you guys faced anything like that? Did you consider kind of getting money from those kinds of people?
Well, there was that. Like you said, it comes with strings attached. And then there's also, because we're faith-based, there's a limited amount of options as to like what grants you can apply to. And we definitely don't want to take that out of our program. So it's just that the resources are limited.
Yeah. But I think it's also very important that you all have been trying to fundraise from within the community as well, because then it kind of, I don't know, I see it as it means more when the community invests in this program, and then and it's definitely an investment and comes back definitely, rather than this corporation or foundation and stuff who I'm like familiar with in applying grants and stuff. Exactly like you said, come with strings attached, and then you're not able to fulfill your ultimate goal because you're under the wing of someone else. Yeah, for sure. So I know that the program is focused on, this idea of youth activism and training and providing the skill sets necessary for them to expand on their projects and their passions. Have you seen a difference in their kind of maybe passions or pursuits of higher education? Did you see any of the students transform from being kind of like not focused on higher education, and then after the program wanting to attend college and wanting to do something while they're on campus?
I think what I noticed, I'm a classroom teacher, secondary, and one thing that I noticed is there's a lot of this apathy in urban ed classrooms. They just don't care about school, so they don't see it as their path to success. They may see family members who are earning money in different ways. They may also see people dropping out of college and school. And so for us, what I saw was a lot of the people who applied at least thought they were going to go to college, but what they don't realize is for urban students the amount of remedial classes that they usually have to do because of the lack of quality education usually existing in these communities. And in addition to that, just feeling like they deserve to be there at that space. So we talk a lot about power structure. We talk about finances. We brought in somebody to talk about financial aid. We talk about ways to, how do you get a college degree without going into debt? So I think that we definitely helped increase, their writing and critical thinking abilities, which definitely, saves them money
ultimately with remedial classes that you would have to take in college. You can talk to any graduate of like even Renaissance or Cass Tech, and the percentage of students that even graduate from these top high schools in Detroit, they have to take remedial classes because I think that they're just not taught the realities of the system that's set up against them. And that's being pretty blunt about the way that I think some systems are set up to have certain people succeed and fail.
Right. I hear you, definitely. So we've talked about why there was a need for DMH to begin. We talked about what you guys do over the years, which you've accomplished, and some challenges. So maybe this is a good time to kind of wrap up and talk about your pitch. So maybe this is an opportunity for you to talk for a few minutes about what it is again for our listeners to kind of recap on what the program is, and of course I think the program would love some more financial support. So this would probably be a good way to garner that. So maybe you guys can just recap on everything that we just kind of talked about, or just give us your final pitch on the program.
Our final what? Final
a pitch like
final pitch.
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
Okay. So let me say again in a nutshell what our program is. So if anybody's ever watched Shark Tank, basically it's like a group of rich people who are willing to put money down for a business idea. And basically what our program is we're training youth to become activists. We're helping them build those skills. We're helping them take a problem that they see and create an initiative for it. And then we're asking the community to invest in their solution for their program and invest in the development of these youth by putting money down for their initiatives. Amita?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to Isra's beautiful summation is that there's an African proverb that I read somewhere on the internet that's about like, if the youth in a community don't feel the warmth of the people in that community, they'll burn it down just to feel its warmth. So it's just this idea, if we don't take care of the young people that are around us it's a moral imperative to care for them, because they're the next leaders of our world and our present day leaders of their own world that we exist in with them. So I would like to stress the importance of actually caring about such programming, even if it's just financially. And if you want to, support us by volunteering with DMH, give us a shout out via email, DetroitMindsandHearts@gmail.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Amita, and thank you, Isra, for joining us on today's show on planting seeds of activism in youth. I think DMH is an amazing program, and kudos to all of you for initiating it and continuing producing the next generation of leaders. And I really appreciate it, and I think the community appreciates you as well. So thank you very much for coming on the show, and thank you for your program. And hopefully it continues to bloom with success over the years, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Hannah.
No problem.
Welcome.
We will now take a short break and get back to our show for a final conclusion and wrap up.
Betsy's Bridal and Formal, Michigan's largest selection of special occasion dresses. Exclusive bridal and cocktail fashions for formal engagements, proms, showers, pageants, mother of the bride and groom, and full bridal wear. Sizes 6 through 30. Betsy's has over 33 years in the bridal business. We promise you the best quality service and alterations. Betsy's Bridal and Formal is located at 6189 Haggerty Road in West Bloomfield. Call 248-669-9999. That's 248-669-9999. Dr. Alzu Haley specializes in diabetes and endocrinology and has been conducting research for over 12 years. Right now, there are several clinical studies actively enrolling for both adult and pediatric patients with type 2 diabetes. Under Dr. Al-Zuhaili's care, participants in the clinical research trials receive free lab work, medical procedures, medical supplies, and medications to assist in their treatment. Qualified participants are also compensated for their time and travel in addition to receiving top care for their diabetes treatment and control. The research department is equipped with experienced and friendly staff who will work to manage patient care and schedule accommodations. Please contact Al-Zuhaili Medical Consultants at 1331 Monroe Street in Dearborn. Visit alzuhailidiabetes.com and call 313-581-8903. 313-581-8903.
Welcome back to Life Infused on Radio Baladi. This is Hanan Yahya here with you. Our topic for today is planting seeds of activism in youth. We just completed a conversation with our fabulous program guest, Detroit Minds and Hearts, a program that really embodies what it means to empower young people to seek change in their communities, and it really has produced the next generation of young people, and hopefully will continue over the years as it grows and creates this ripple effect in our communities of Detroit, Hamtramck, Dearborn, and all of metropolitan Detroit, hopefully. So we talked about planting seeds of activism in youth and what their program is about and what they do, but we kind of haven't talked about what can you really do to plant these seeds and what that means. So becoming an activist is something that a lot of people are very wary about. They criticize activists, especially the ones that are young, and oftentimes are, again, like I said before, they're brushed under the rug, and their ideas are very not accepted in our society. So activists are people essentially who seek the need for change and improvement and motivation on a large scale in our community. They are people driven by passion. They are keen to share facts they want to understand more widely, and they lead by a vision for a better future. Activism comes naturally to some people, while for others it's something that is thrust upon them as a result of particular experiences or upon learning about something they passionately believe needs to change. So we talked about with Detroit Minds and Hearts that some young people who come from communities that are oppressed oftentimes have more of like a raging fire and passion within them to seek change and lead by a vision for a better future. Whereas some other young people who lived a pretty decent life and haven't faced any difficulties, generally speaking, are not as open to becoming an activist. But all in all, it's a very important step in life, and young people, I think, need to be more aware of that opportunity when they are very young, as early as middle school, because that's where it all begins. So whatever it is, the reason that a person wants to become an activist, they definitely have the ability to do so, no matter what your age is, your means, or your background. The belief that you can make a difference and that you have the power to do something about an issue is at the heart of creating change for the better. And a lot of this, when you say it, sounds cliche, and not a lot of people believe it, but it's really important, and it's very true. Once you get into the field of activism and become an activist, you will know exactly what I'm saying and exactly what people talk about when they discuss these kind of conversations. So, kind of to conclude the show, we're going to go through a few steps on how to be an activist. Just what do you do? How do you get to become an activist, and how do you stay an activist and find something that you love and make change? A lot of people don't know how to make change, and I think these steps are very important and are so true. So, number one is to establish what you can do for your cause. So, whether it's morality, politics, the environment, the education system, the local community garden, or the global economic system, it is so important to refine the elements of your activism so that you have focus points and that you can do what is manageable. Of course, what you define as manageable is entirely up to you, but be sure that you have the needed energy and time and resources available to pursue your activism to the extent you'd like. A very close mentor of mine has told me once before when I started pursuing becoming an activist and finding my passions. I remember her telling me once, just imagine that you have all the resources in the world and that money and stuff is not a problem. And this, of course, is early on in the process when you're coming up with ideas. And she made a really good point, because a lot of times when we, and I think all of us have had this opportunity to think about becoming an activist at least once in our lives, when we face that first step, when we're establishing what we can do, we always get turned down or afraid or just this feeling of incapability when it comes to resources that we don't have. So I think what's first is that you believe in your cause, whatever it may be, if it's small or large, and then just assume and imagine that you have all of the resources, because once you imagine that you don't and believe that you don't, your faith and your passion will decrease, and you don't want that to happen, because you want your faith and your passion for becoming an activist or for whatever change that you seek to be at the top level that it can be. So the possibilities are very endless. And step 2 is to source your passion. Passion oftentimes comes from a sudden realization that changes your life forever. Dr. Mildred Jefferson recalls when she realized, yes, I am my brother's keeper, and she went on a lifetime of pro-life activism. And once the realization hits you, it is what will stoke the embers of your activism, even at the lowest points when you sometimes feel like giving up. So once you source your passion, it grows and expands, and there's no way it can just be taken down or decreased, because it's strong in you and it lives. And passion derives from awareness. And a lot of people are not aware of this either. Once you're aware of something in the world that you believe needs fixing, that awareness will dog you constantly and cause you to see the need everywhere, bringing a sense of responsibility with it. So, in reference to the conversation we had with Detroit Minds and Hearts, young people who are kind of almost natural in their activism have this sense of responsibility that they attain after having it or reaching that point. And once they have that responsibility, they feel like they have to do a lot to make it happen, and they see it happening all around them, and they take responsibility of it. And number 2 is always feel and believe that you can make a difference. There are always arguments that you may have on, like, how much good can one individual do, and then think about, what is it in my hands that I can do? I'm only one person. But that kind of thinking, it's a good sign, because you're aiming at something larger than yourself, and you're questioning opportunities to become an activist. So you're on the right track. Number 3 in the step to becoming an activist is be realistic about your own needs. Activism may be about changing thinking slowly rather than achieving the actual change. But in this case, it's wise to understand the possibility that during your lifetime, you may be at the front of simply paving the way for eventual change, then viewing it actually occurring. Understanding this can help alleviate a sense of frustration, doom, and resentment about your cause. And this is very important, because a lot of people who get into the field of activism assume that everything will happen, overnight, and they work very hard, and when it doesn't, especially when it's it has to do with society or like the education system, or if it's a global issue, it's definitely not going to happen overnight. And so the understanding that you are just paving the way for another group of people or another person to come and to make the change is the foundation before you continue your work. Because once you fail or face a hurdle, you will resent the cause. You will be disappointed, and it will just decrease your passion in activism. So make sure not to do it. Step 4 is to read books. Reading books is so important, not just because it increases your comprehension skills and reading and writing skills, but it's reading books in general and about activism is one of the most inspiring, helpful means for getting more deeply involved in activism. When you get into the field of anything, for example, if you're going into law or you're going to medicine or journalism, you will have to read and understand the dynamics, the politics, the structures, the processes of those fields to make it. And I think the same thing applies for activism. You need to read books about activism that provide you with ideas and tactics and experiences and wins and losses and other useful information from those who have already been active to strengthen your cause, to strengthen your passion. So read books on how to use and work with the media. The media is such an important outlet for work that we do as people in our community, but also as activists, because activism has a lot to do with expression and raising awareness. And if you're making change, you need to be directly connected with the people, and media is your best way to them. And activism really derives from the power to educate, to raise awareness, and make people passionate about an issue. So, for example, the controversial Kony 2012 made it its goal to raise money and awareness to track down Kony, who has been involved in child human rights violations in, I believe, somewhere in Africa. But this person from the U.S. made it a campaign, and within 1 year raised so much money. And the way that person did it was, first of all, believing in the issue and believing in the cause. And then even though it was a global issue, it still never hindered his vision of making it happen. And then number 2, raising awareness. And he did that by creating this media campaign. And we talked about media, on how to use your outlets of media, social networking, video making, films, and all of that to reach your viewers and convince them to join the cause. And that's another thing. You need to provide like an emotional appeal and a general appeal for what you're promoting, whatever it may be. And this man did a really good job. And although it's very controversial because a lot of it has been deemed to be like a fraud, but he did a great job garnering millions of people to support it by donating and by just following up with the media outlets and the media campaign that he created. And then also, it's very important as an activist to know the laws. It's very important to understand the legislative, the administrative, and the judicial processes of the country or the region. Knowing how to affect change to laws and how to make the most out of the legislative system is important for every activist. The more open your political system is, the better chances you have, of course. And luckily, we're in the United States, so we have a lot of the freedom to impact policy change and influence and support our elected representatives and leaders. But it's very important to understand the importance of policy change as well, because policies really dictate how we live our lives, from the media to the education system to our financial situation, to everything. It has a lot to do with it, and policies determine what happens. And so if you can change policy, you can change society as a whole. So that's very important as well. We will take a short break and get back to our steps on how to become activists on today's show of Planting Seeds of Activism in Youth. So please stay tuned. I'm Hanan Yahya, and we will get back to our great show.
مؤسسة الحياة للإغاثة والتنمية في مدينة ساوثفيلد في ولاية ميشيغان، المؤسسة الرائدة في العمل الإغاثي والإنساني. مؤسسة الحياة ومنذ 20 سنة تقدم العون للفقراء والمحتاجين والمتضررين بسبب الكوارث الطبيعية أو الحروب في شتى أنحاء العالم. كما تقوم مؤسسة الحياة بكفالة الأيتام والعوائل الفقيرة وحفر آبار المياه في مناطق الحاجة، وأيضا تقوم مؤسسة الحياة بتزويد المشافي والمستوصفات الصحية بالأدوية والمعدات الطبية وإنشاء مدارس وعيادات طبية في أقطار عديدة من العالم. ومؤسسة الحياة مرخصة للعمل في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، وجميع التبرعات معافاة من الضرائب. اتصلوا بمؤسسة الحياة للإغاثة والتنمية على رقم الهاتف المجاني 1-800-827-3543 أو زوروا موقعهم الإلكتروني على www.lifeusa.org.
Welcome back to all of our listeners on Life Infused on Radio Baladi for today's show, Planting Seeds of Activism in Youth. Our fabulous DMH, Detroit Minds and Hearts guests came on the show today with their representatives and represented the amazing things that the program does to expand its efforts in empowering young people in our communities and creating the next generation of young activists and leaders in our society. So to continue our steps in how to become an activist, after reading a lot of books and specifically about activism, the next step is to choose your method of activism. So whatever talents you have, whatever resources you have, it's very important to just take those and transform it into work. Because a lot of people have visions and a lot of them write everything down and think about it a lot, but they never take the next step to making it happen. And so the next thing to do is to choose your method, and then afterwards you research on existing efforts. So if there's anybody else or anything that's ever been done across the world that is similar to your method, then you learn from their work, leading up to the next step, which is just to get organized, whether it's creating an activist group or just yourself or creating a blog or working with young people, whatever it is, you need to just get it organized and make sure that you have a plan that's scripted out for you to make your change happen. And then finally, just learn how to message your passion or the change that you seek to make effectively in the community, whether it's through social media or letters or anything like that. Just learn how to have that strong vision and spread it throughout the community and garner more support. So in becoming an activist, it requires a lot of steps, and it's a very difficult process, but it's worth the change that you want to see happen. And as an activist myself, I think it's very important. And in my personal experiences, these steps have helped, and I'm continuously learning and continuously growing. And so is our program guest, Detroit Minds and Hearts, and the work that they do with their young people. So I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for supporting our young people in our communities, and I hope that from this show that you take away a few lessons about why it's very important to become an activist and how you can become one. Then also why it's important to train and teach our young people in our society today to become young activists. So thank you very much. Please tune in next month for our show on Life Infused on Radio Baladi. And this is Hanan Yahya. So thank you all and enjoy your fabulous day.